I'm so happy you could join me for Altenew's 10th anniversary blog hop. These are the two cards I'm going to be showing you how to make today. Right now I'm going through all my embossing folder samples until I figured out which embossing folder I wanted to use, and I settled on the lovely camellias. I'll be using the sapphire, the antique gold, and I did not use the Caribbean sky inks. I've got the gray paper and I sprayed it with a little bit of water to try to help the paper get a little softer so that it doesn't crack when you run it through the embossing machine. I'm trying to decide which color inks to use, and for the gray one I've decided to start with the gold, the antique gold, and I'm using that just for the centers of the flowers. And when I should be using a um, blending pad that's flat instead of domed. It would have been easier. But I used the antique gold for the centers and then the sapphire around the edges. You want to be very careful that you use a very, very light touch, so you only put ink on the raised edges of the flower. Now I'm switching to a black piece of paper that I'm going to die cut, or excuse me, emboss. And for this one I'm using the gold. Antique gold for this. Very, very lightly rub across the top of the paper so you're only picking up ink on the raised edges. Again, if I had used a flat instead of a domed blending stump or whatever you want to call that, it would have been a little easier for me to do it. I want to make sure that the gold is bright enough so you get a nice contrast between the gold and the black. So I just very carefully add more and more layers. There's my two cards, and I'm trying to decide which sentiment I want to put on that. I don't like the white on that. I think it's too stark. So I'm going to take time to smell the flowers on the gray one, and I've decided that I'm going to use My Heart Is With You and Your Family. I think that's what that says. And I'm going to heat emboss that with antique gold. Then I die cut it with the featured sentiment die cut. And I think that's better than the white. I'm using some foam tape to raise it up. I want to make sure I get it right on the sticky tape so it doesn't overhang and show the white. And I've decided to put it on the right side in that kind of blank spot. That card is now not quite completed. I added some, they're going to dry clear, and I was pointing to one that was mostly dry. Just little white drops, dewdrops, if you will. And this one I thought it looked kind of plain, so I'm using some antique gold ink spray and splattering some gold on there. Then I put some of the sapphire ink and just smush it onto the acrylic block, add some water, and I splatter that on. I'm not a big splatter person, and this particular gray cardstock was pretty cheap cardstock, so it absorbed and spread out more than maybe a higher quality cardstock would, the ink drops. And seems to be the thing to do, so I'm not good at putting them on. I don't necessarily like the look, and usually I get ink drops, ink splatters everywhere but where I want it on the paper. As you see, it's all over my mat in the back. And I raised that up on some foam tape too. I do think it's a pretty card. And there's the two cards I made for you today. If you enjoyed this video today, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel.